the puppet nerds of the world. This may sound absurd, but this is the place you need to be. We'll do an interview and then we'll stitch and glue all of the dolls, we'll make it shake. If you wanna be in the know and to play like a pro, subscribe to Krutinger Puppets.
Welcome back, Puppet Nerds. Adam Krutinger here, and I wanted to walk you through a client build that I did recently. I recently built this Santa Claus puppet for a music video, and I wanted to walk you through the entire process. Let's get started.
The first thing that I do is draw out a pattern. I couldn't find a pattern in stock that I liked for this, so I just decided to make something brand new. And here I'm tracing it out of foam. I make sure to mirror the edges and cut it out with a nice sharp razor blade. Next is to glue all those pieces together. So in between each of these darts, I stick some glue and then carefully line them up and glue them all together. Then closing the back of the seam of the head so that I end up with one large full head for the puppet. Next, what I'm making is the mouth plate pattern. I'm going to use this for the top and the bottom, as well as the fabric mouth plate that you're going to see a little bit later in the video. Anyway, I cut them out of a thin plastic. Make sure to rough up the edges with a little bit of sandpaper and then carefully glue them into the puppet's mouth. The type of glue that I like to use is contact cement, and my favorite brand is Masters contact cement, but you can really use any kind you want. Next, what I'm going to do is make the head plug. If you click up the link at the top, I actually have a whole video on different types of grips that make it really easy to hold onto your puppet. Now we're moving on to the pattern making process for the skin of the puppet. This process is called draping, and it's a common pattern making process that people use for making costumes, even tailoring suits, and dressmaking too. You're going to see me use this process a few more times in the video too to make his coat and a couple other parts of the puppet as well. Next, I trace that pattern out of the puppet fleece and I carefully cut it out, and then I'm going to start stitching it all up. This part takes a long time if you do it by hand, but you can also do it on the machine as well. Now I'm cutting out that fabric mouth plate piece that I was telling you about earlier. It's important to carefully pin it in, and then I just stitched it quickly on the sewing machine, which for me makes it much easier to glue into the mouth plate. Once that's done, it's time to create the neck for this puppet. So I carefully trace out the neck pattern and cut it out, and also attach that to the bottom of the head. I like to stitch these by hand because it makes the seams much more invisible. I have a video coming out soon on how to hide seams for your puppet. Moving on to the body, I made a new pattern for the body and cut it out of this L200 foam. I like this foam because it has a little bit more structure, especially for such a bigger body. Next, I'm going to make the nose for this puppet. I actually have a whole video on this too that's called How to Make the Perfect Puppet Nose. And what I use for this is what's called a vacuum former. And there's two things that I really love about using this technique. Number one, it makes the nose very light, and having a light puppet is very important. And number two, it lets you stretch the fabric around, which puts the salvage edge on the inside, which makes it much easier to stitch this nose to your puppet. Here I'm using that same draping technique to make the pattern for the hair, and carefully cutting it out of this Mongolian fur, which is something that I love to use for puppet hair. I know it looks a little strange now, but I'm going to do some treatments that make it look perfect. If you're curious about some of these hand stitches that I'm using, make sure to check out my video on the perfect stitches to use for a puppet. I'll link that down below as well. Now we're on to the beard, and for this I'm going to use the exact same fur that I used for the hair. Then I just stitch it up and turn it inside out. After stitching the beard on, it's time to do a little bit of grooming. Just by simply combing out the fur, it gives it a completely different texture. Then a quick little trim automatically starts making it look much more like hair. Next, I sketch out a classic mustache for Santa and put it together using the exact same techniques. And now I'm stitching on the nose and mustache before we move on to finishing the rest of the puppet's body. Now typically I cover the entire body with the skin fabric for the puppet, that way you can change the clothes to make it so your puppet can wear different costumes. However, with this puppet, I know it's only ever going to be Santa, so I do cut a couple corners and cheat when putting this together. This also saves me a little bit of time, which was especially important with this build because I only had a 2-day turnaround. And now that the coat pattern is done, I stitch it together and check the fit, and design the rest of the clothes. Now I'm moving on to making the hands for the puppet. This is the most tedious and annoying part of making a puppet. And if anyone tells you they like making hands for a puppet, they are either a liar or they're a monster. I have another video on my channel that goes through the entire process of making hands for a puppet. It covers the foam work and the armature inside of the fingers so that you can pose them, as well as the skin covering for it. So make sure to check that out in the links below. I also have a few videos that cover the arm rods as well. Now I move on to sculpting Santa's boots. If you want to make removable shoes for a puppet, a couple months ago I made a video on how to do that. But again, since this is only going to be Santa and he's only ever going to be wearing boots, I decided to make it attached to the puppet. Next, I'm going to attach the arms and legs. Now, I have to put a hole in this puppet, and the best way for me to do it using these materials that I'm using now is to heat up an awl and poke it through. What's nice about that is it melts the foam and the fabric. By melting the hole, it keeps the fabric from fraying. But if you ever try this technique, make sure to do it very carefully and outside since it makes fumes. And be sure to also have a fire extinguisher close. And now just a little bit of assembly before the final details on the face. I like to pin where the eyes are going to be and then carefully glue them in place. The eyebrows are stitched on in the corner too, and there's a little bit of armature wire so they can be posed. And here he is.
Though I built this puppet, this character was actually designed by Edna Bland and Alex Griffin. And click right here if you want to see this puppet in action during the music video. Jaden Librian and Alex Griffin did an amazing job bringing these characters to life. And if this YouTube channel isn't fulfilling all your puppetry needs, make sure to check out puppetnerd.com. There we have weekly updates with all kinds of puppetry news and tutorials, and some of which that isn't on the channel yet. Some recent fun posts are how much to charge for a puppet, to blogs with a lot of information on different types of puppetry supplies and where to get them. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps this channel a lot. And don't forget to subscribe. We have hundreds of puppetry videos right here on this channel and many more coming. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you next time.